What does the current college football playoff landscape look like heading into Week 9? I'll show you guys right now. The top 4 seeds in the 12-team playoff would go as follows. Oregon would be the 1 seed out of the Big Ten. Miami would be the 2 seed out of the ACC. Iowa State would be the 3 seed out of the Big 12. And Texas A&M, yes, Texas A&M would be the 4 seed out of the SEC. They're the only team in the conference with 4 wins and 0 losses, so they would get the first round bye as it currently stands in this scenario. The four other home teams in the first round would be Georgia at the 5, Penn State at the 6, Ohio State at 7, and Texas all the way back at the 8 seed currently. So that's the current standing. Let's see how we should get in the projected standings. Now, the number one overall seed I think will be projected will be the Oregon Ducks. I think they go 13-0. I think they go undefeated the rest of the way. They already beat Ohio State once. They got tough games coming up against Illinois and on the road at Michigan and Wisconsin. But I do think they will have a rematch with Ohio State in the conference title game, where I think they will defeat them yet again and move to 13-0 to be the Big Ten champion. The 2 seed, I do believe, will be the Texas Longhorns. That loss to Georgia kind of gave a little bit of step back, but I do believe they still make it back to the SEC championship game and win the championship game over Tennessee Volunteers. I get to them in a second, but I think they get the 12-1, the Longhorns do, and they get the 2 seed overall in this playoff. The 3 seed would be the ACC champ, Clemson. I think they go 12-1. They run the table the rest of the way. I think they defeat Miami in the ACC championship game while defeating Louisville, Virginia Tech, and Pittsburgh along the way to get to that undefeated in-conference streak. They get the 3 seed in this projected playoff. And finally, the 4 seed would be the Big 12 champion, Iowa State. Previously, I projected them to lose 2 games before they got to the Big 12 championship game. I think they might only lose 1. That's either going to be to Utah on the road or Kansas State last week of the season. I do believe they split at least one of those, where I do believe they also face BYU in the conference championship game, where they will defeat them to become your Big 12 champion. So those are your top 4 seeds: Oregon, Texas, Clemson, and Iowa State. So the first team and at large that will get in would be the Tennessee Volunteers. I do believe, like I said earlier, they would face Texas in the SEC championship game. I do believe they run the table the rest of the way, including their road win against Georgia. I think that'd be a close game. I think they can beat Georgia the way they're playing right now. Their defense is taken to another level. But they finished 11-2, but be the first at-large bid in this 12-team playoff. The 6th seed would be the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think just like Tennessee, they get to their conference championship game where they will lose. This time, Ohio State will lose to the same team, Oregon. So they finished 11-2, Big Ten runner-up, but still did enough. They would have good wins against Iowa, Penn State, Indiana, and Michigan. So those are really good quality resume builders. They are the 6th seed in this projected playoff. The 7th seed would be Miami Hurricanes, a team that would finish the regular season undefeated, but then lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game. The reason they dropped so low is because their lack of depth and their strength of schedule. Their best team they would have defeated along the way would have been Louisville and Virginia Tech. So that just shows you how weak their overall strength of schedule is. But they would still do enough to get in the playoff at 12-1 out of the ACC. The last team to get a home playoff game in the first round would be Penn State. They finished 11-1. Only loss would be to Ohio State. They would have a good quality win over a surging Wisconsin team. I think that's this week. But I think the rest of the way that would be their only loss against Ohio State. They would lose the tiebreakers to Ohio State because they both finished with 1 loss, and Ohio State would get the head-to-head. So, but an at-large bid out of the Big Ten would be the 3rd team overall in this 12-team playoff. The number 9 seed would be the Georgia Bulldogs, a team that would lose to Tennessee, already lost to Alabama. They would lose the tiebreaker to Tennessee, but their resume would still speak for itself. They would have that great win over Texas, that great win over Florida, and a great win over Ole Miss. And that great win over Clemson, who would be the ACC champ. So they would have 2 wins over conference champions. I mean, even with 2 losses, that'd be a sure shoe-in to get in this 12-team playoff. The 10th seed would be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 11-1, they would finish. Only loss would be to Northern Illinois. They would have good wins along the way against Texas A&M, Louisville, and then 2 surging teams, Army and Navy, out of the group of 5. both undefeated right now. Both sit at 7-0 for the first time since the 30s. Preseason, that didn't look like too big of a wins, but right now you get both of those. Those are two really good teams right now, surging out of the group of 5. So, obviously, the last team would be the group of 5 winner, the highest rated group of 5 winner. So the 11th seed would come down to 3 of the Power 4 teams right now. Would be either 10-2 LSU, 10-2 Texas A&M, or an 11-1 SMU team. LSU would have losses to Southern Cal and Texas A&M, but they would have beaten Alabama, they would have beaten Ole Miss, they would have beaten South Carolina. Texas A&M would have had losses to Notre Dame and Texas, but they would have beaten Florida, Missouri, and LSU along the way. While SMU, while not necessarily having that hard of a strength of schedule, their only loss would have been to the Big 12 championship loser, BYU. They would have decent wins over Louisville and Pittsburgh. So those would be the 3, I guess, final at-large bids to get in the playoff. I think the committee, with this resume, they would still choose SMU out of the ACC, 11-1. They still, like I said before, they would have good wins over Pittsburgh and Louisville. I think that one-loss record, even with A&M and LSU's resume in the SEC, I think this would do enough for the Mustangs to get in the playoff. Finally, the last team, the group of 5 represented, will be Boise State. This is no surprise. Only loss so far has been 3 points to the number 1 overall seed, Oregon. They would theoretically have 2 wins over UNLV, but one in the regular season this week and in the Mountain West Championship game. They would have other decent wins over Washington State and Oregon State in the non-conference. They would definitely be a sure lock to be the group of 5 representative in the 12-team playoff. Let me know what you guys think. That is my projected 12-team playoff for the Week 9. Join me next week to see how all the standings and all the games go for the Week 10 predictions. This is the first week of the actual CFP rankings, but I'll see you guys then.